Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the January Ansira webinar. I've been struggling with whether to say Happy New Year or not, as I have a strict cutoff of the 7th for this normally, but since it's the first webinar of the year, and it feels like it's been January for about 57 days, I'll just say it for good measure, Happy New Year. My name is Erin Zaborac, and I am the Director of Sales Enablement for Ansira. And I'm so excited to be here with you today. Hosting these webinars and sharing actionable insights with all of you is my favorite thing I get to do here. So thank you for registering and for being here so that I can do that. Today, I'm joined by Director of Aggregator Media, Bailey Catanese. Bailey, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited too. The content you've put together is great. I'm going to get through a few logistics here while I see other people joining and getting settled in. I don't want anybody to miss anything. So we are recording the session today, and the deck is currently available in the handout section of your GoToWebinar toolbar, just in case you want to download it and follow along. We will send that after the session later today when we get that recording too. Everything Bailey covers today will be detailed and actionable, showing you how to take some of the amazing work her team does here at Ansira and bring it in-house for you and your team. Some pieces are pretty technical, so ask questions along the way. You're going to see a question section in that GoToWebinar toolbar. Put your notes in there. Those come straight to me, and I'm going to interrupt throughout the presentation. We might take any of the really technical questions offline, but I want to make sure everyone gets the information they need, so don't be shy. You'll also see a survey pop up at the end of the webinar. It's quick, it's painless. It really helps us shape the future content, so I would love it if you filled it out. Okay, it looks like we've settled in. Let's skip to the good part. We all know the job market, it's a little nuts right now. And for many of the industries represented here with our attendees today, it's always hard to find qualified job candidates for those really specialized positions. Bailey, I know you have great stuff, and I think you're going to cover a little bit about this, but I want you to talk about your team and why you are qualified to deliver this content, other than because I said so and because I know you're amazing. So I'm going to let you take it away, but give us a little bit of intro.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome, everyone. As Erin mentioned, my name is Bailey Catanese, and I am the director of our aggregate media team here at Ansira. Our team has found a lot of great success being able to source qualified job candidates for our existing partners and be able to fill positions they were having trouble with doing with previous opportunities or previous strategies. So today, I'm hopeful that the strategies we discuss are going to allow you to feel confident, go back to Meta, launch some campaigns, and help fill those open positions for your specific company. But before we do that, I will give you a little bit of an overview of my team and our experience and knowledge set around this specific topic. So as you can see here on the right-hand side, it's a lean, mean, mighty team that I lead. We help lead performance marketing, specifically in paid social media and display advertising. So really what that means is anytime we launch a campaign, our end goal is to generate high intent consumers or leads, and we generate those across verticals to all of our different client partners. Currently, we operate in used car, in new car, in jobs, obviously, and then apartment listings and travel. We own and operate a variety of different websites across those different verticals to make sure that we are efficient in our both planning our media and spending our media, but making sure that we're focused on optimizations, which we will talk about later in the webinar. And then lastly, our media is purchased programmatically, and we do that to ensure maximum ROI and efficiency on any campaign that we manage. So the team here is comprised of myself, and then Gina and Morgan, our digital specialists, and then rounding out is Matt Catanese, who is our engineer, and yes, has the same last name as me because he is my brother-in-law. So I have personally been working in performance marketing since 2012. We started advertising on Meta ads, specifically the mobile platform, in 2014. And as a team, we manage hundreds of thousands of dollars per month in Meta media for a different portfolio of clients.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so let's tell everybody, we're going to teach them how to do it. Maybe not as efficiently as you, but I love the way that you dialed this out. So tell us what we're going to cover.
Absolutely, and we're going to cover kind of three main parts of this. to be high level, but then a little bit more granular as we get into it. So first is going to be what goes into creating an enticing ad and why that is important for your campaign. Second will be website creation for form conversions. It's actually something I'm super passionate about. You'd be shocked how many companies kind of miss the mark on that specific part. And then lastly, we'll talk through the programmatic media buys on Meta and why understanding the algorithm and the pixels and everything go back to your benefit with your campaign and its performance. So first, let's get into the actual ad itself. What goes into creating enticing ads? Let's get your audience's attention. So first and foremost, just needing to understand the importance of a compelling creative. So why is it so creative or so important? If you think about Facebook, Facebook is kind of like a giant, more educated display placement. So you're not doing search terms to try to get your specific ad better than your competition. You're in a pool with all different industries, all different ad types. So you need to ensure your creative is going to stop that consumer in their tracks and want to stop scrolling and actually take action on the campaign that you launched. So it's your first chance to really grab that consumer's attention and entice them with your specific ad. So when I say compelling creative, what do I really mean? It's creative that's going to entice a consumer to actually want to interact with your ad in some way or another, or at least at the very least, consider looking further into what is actually being advertised on the ad. So maybe you're a brand new company, they haven't heard of you, taking action and going to your Facebook page or going to Google to search a little bit more is great engagement, even if they're not necessarily completing the form at that time. So how can you ensure that your ad is compelling? And these are kind of the main points that go into that specific part. So first is knowing your audience. Is your ad actually going to be relevant to the consumers you're wanting to put it in front of? Secondly is it eye-catching? Do you have good language, imagery, colors, etc., that are going to stand out amongst the sea of all the other ads that the consumer will see? And lastly, are you using assertive calls to action that are clear for the consumer to know what they should be doing when they see your ad? Are they looking to just learn more, click around? Or are you actually wanting them to take some form of an action once they land on your webpage?
Yeah, so this is, 101, but so important, and we've got to get back to basics here. I love what you said about a lead form might look like success, but engagement might also look like success. I think that's really important for brands to identify what they're trying to accomplish. And a question, are we looking at static images or are we sometimes looking at video for solutions like this?
Great, I think all of the above. You could be looking at static, video, catalogs, product sets, really anything that you can use. And we'll kind of talk more into that part of it in a deeper slide. But all of those types of things, especially when you know your audience and you're going to start understanding it based off different campaigns that you run. Hey, my audience set here really engages with video ads. Now you know, let's launch more video ads. Let's kind of hone into that specific traffic medium or campaign medium.
Perfect. It helps that I think everybody here today with us has been on Facebook at least.
You know what it looks like.
Unless you're, I don't know, Gen Z, maybe not, maybe you're too.
Yeah, or my dad. Yeah, so.
We're not cool enough. So, okay, so talk about an ad. Let's talk about an image first. What are we looking at?
Absolutely. So let's get into the different components. And this specific example is a static image. But again, you can have carousel ads, different catalogs, videos, things that you might want to test out as you're trying these different iterations. But there's 5 main parts that we need to focus on and where you can take advantage of getting that consumer's attention. So first, very obvious, is going to be the primary text. So that top text at the top, you need to make sure you are grabbing that consumer's attention right off the bat. Second is going to be the image and what you display specifically in that largest part of the ad itself. Next is the URL display. So really, where are you sending the consumers once they get off of your campaign and onto the web page? 4 is, it's a small spot, but I also think it's super important, is the headline and description. It's a spot where you can add additional, action language for the consumer. And lastly, the official number 5 call to action, where that's preset within Meta. They'll give you drop-down selections, but there are ones that are less compelling than others that you'll need to take advantage of. And for the purposes of a job campaign, apply now is going to be a great call to action that you should take advantage of. So when you're looking at the different language considerations, my biggest thing, and I have seen a lot of different ads be either way too broad and vague, and it's one sentence snippet, and the consumer's left thinking like, I don't know really what I'm supposed to be doing, or it's like overly lengthy, way too much information, and you're not concise. So always be clear and concise with what you're trying to get and convey to the consumer. For jobs specifically, mentioning unique offerings about the position here is going to be a great way to set yourself apart from anyone else in that specific competition. So what can you offer that's flexible work schedules, paid time off, 401k plans, whatever the case may be, note that here. I would also note that you should make sure that any pre-qualifications that the consumer should have to even be able to apply for that role should be noted here. The worst thing you're going to do is try not mention that and maybe get a bunch of candidates who just don't qualify, and all you had to say is 3 years experience minimum would have gotten them there. That would be something that you should make sure you include here. So anything that is specific to the role, call out right in that text, right at the top. Oh, go ahead.
I do. We have a question actually from Jason. Is do you see higher engagement when they market the human side of the business, like you mentioned, 401k, employee recognition, career development, you know, versus just the job? I think. What do you recommend?
Absolutely. And, you know, we try to put ourselves in the position, we all have applied for jobs before. When I'm in that role, what do I want to see? And personalizing it to the specifics is great. And also it goes kind of down to bullet 4 here about reviews and statistics when applicable. Having, you know, if you have a great Glassdoor, the 5 out of 5 star, note that here. If you've got employees who really love their job, getting a review or getting something on paper to show that this is a great place to work, especially if it's not a big brand name that not everyone knows about, then highlighting yourself as a company is a great time to do that there as well. But personalizing it to the role is great. And you'll also note when we get to the website piece of the webinar and we talk about different areas where you can note the specifics of the job, you'll have an additional opportunity to do that there as well.
Yeah, you know, I'm typing this answer, but as much as you are going to select the right applicant, the applicant needs to select your business as the right place for them to work. So it's a great question, and I'm glad we covered that.
Really great question, Jason. Thank you. And don't be afraid here to add additional call to action. I know there's a specific number 5 call to action button, but you see here, we say apply now within the image itself, and we'll call it out a time or two, even in the language at the top, to just remind the consumer. It seems so obvious, like, hey, I already said it, but you'd be surprised that people will still be a little bit confused sometimes. So don't be shy to add other compelling call to actions throughout the text itself. And then that brings me to imagery. So obviously you want the content to be relevant and you want to be mindful of what you're showing. So just keep that in mind. There are going to be iterations and different ways in which you can add creative. I'll mention this a time or two throughout the webinar. Testing is always going to be something we would recommend. Testing, A/B testing iterations of the image itself, the location of the image, but just make sure it's content relevant and you are mindful of the text on the actual image itself. Back in the day, Facebook used to have a 20% text rule that you weren't allowed to have any more text than that or your campaign wouldn't run. So now Meta does not have those rules and you can kind of take advantage as you see fit. I would always recommend just reminding the consumers some of the benefits that maybe you didn't call up at the top, or maybe that's a spot that you can mention the different pre-qualifications, but really anything there, just be mindful of the audience and the different messaging that you want to get out based off the job that your campaign is for. Eye-popping and eye-catching images and colors. The worst thing in the world is like a Facebook blue or gray and just like, it's scrolling, you're kind of seeing all the same thing. So I always love using greens and yellows and oranges, really pop and kind of, at least at the very least, get the consumer's attention that way and kind of stop them in their tracks only from a color. And then media relevance, we talked about this a minute ago with video versus catalogs and stuff. You'll be testing and you'll kind of have an understanding of what kind of media, especially with the role you're looking to fill, your audience is going to engage with most. So just keep that in mind and watch your click-through rates and your cost per clicks when you're launching the campaign to know what your audience is favoring over others. And fatigue will set in. You're gonna have to refresh your creative. So just monitor that, refresh when it makes sense. Frequency capping is a data piece that you'll see within the Facebook Ads Manager that you can watch just to ensure that, hey, I've gotten really high being frequent to the same consumer is not bad. You want to touch that consumer more than once, but it could get to a point where you're hitting them, and they're not the right audience. You'll notice that your click-through rate's going to go down and your cost is going to go up. So just be mindful of that. And you could be sitting here thinking to yourself, like, Bailey, I am not that creative. I don't really know what's going to work. So lucky for us, and a lot of companies nowadays, they're utilizing AI to kind of help push the creative portfolio for their different advertisers. So Meta's the same. They have their own AI tools that you can use to kind of tap into, especially if you're like, I'm in a rut, I've tested a couple things, nothing's really working. It'll be a great opportunity for you to test some things you may not have thought of. One great one is the Advantage Plus Creative. And that is really just a way for Facebook to tailor to the person viewing your ad, and it'll automatically optimize your creative, and it'll show those optimized versions to the audience to improve based on what's performing the best. Also, things that we don't always think about first is going to be sounds and music options, especially based on placements. If it's in a story, they'll suggest different ones that will kind of grab the attention based off of a sound or a trending sound or song. The text and language suggestions are a really good one. I think it's something that allows you even to think about, here you see emojis are in a recommendation of what to type for this specific example, and give you different verbiage, or just kind of like a thesaurus of options or synonyms of options where you maybe haven't thought of before, or rewording or reorganizing that you should take advantage of. And then lastly, the imagery layout and sizing by placement is actually a really good one. You don't realize that there's a lot of different placements within Meta where your ad could show up, and just your static main one that you upload isn't going to render the same across different placements. So if there's some different looking ones, or Meta recommends that you resize, they will call that out with the pixel amount that you should resize it to, and then it should render a lot better, and making sure your calls to actions are where they should be, and that your messaging is just as clear on the main campaign as it is on the other placements within Meta.
Yeah, that layout tool is really helpful. I don't want to brag, but I help manage the PTA Facebook here so I have a little experience. No, but seriously, it's really helpful to show you what you need for people who aren't the most creative or savvy, and maybe Canva is the extent of your creative experience. So don't worry if it's not your first language. There's all these fantastic tools. As a question, should you show an image of the team versus an image of the job, or would this be like a good A/B test maybe?
I think that would be a great A/B test. I think it really goes back to what you are advertising in the language. So an image of the actual job or someone on the job might be perfect to just get the consumer's attention that we have open positions specific to this role. But if you're talking about, like your Glassdoor 5-star reviews or a good review from someone, it could be a great opportunity to show the team. So that's a great question too, because you'll want to make sure that your language and your visual actually go together. So I think that would be a great A/B test, just depending on the messaging you're getting across.
Yeah, I think about, like, if you have an entry, specifically he asked about auto tech, where if it's an entry level position, that may be really enticing for, somebody new to the workforce to see, here's all the experienced people you're going to work with. But if it's a more experienced position, they might not care as much. So definitely test that out and look at the data.
And videos of individuals like on the job could be really great, or just interviewing, if they have that capability, interviewing people who work there just to say how great it is, especially for someone new, entry level, that may not have done this before, could be a great strategy. All right, so now we're getting into something that I'm actually super passionate about. Again, I feel like a lot of times companies miss the mark on this, largely because you think you have this beautiful website that you spent a lot of money on. Like, of course, that's where we should send our consumers, no matter what campaign that we're driving traffic to. But the actuality is that specifically, we need to remember where our candidates are coming from. 98% of individuals who are active on Meta apps are coming from their mobile device. So oftentimes you have a very small amount of real estate. So oftentimes these beautiful websites that you've built just aren't the perfect ones for website conversions. So we want to make sure before you spend any media dollars that you have a web page that you feel confident is going to convert at a much higher percentage than maybe your base case root URL. So we talk about this as conversion optimized websites. So what does that really mean and why is it important? So essentially you are ensuring that the website is built to generate a conversion. That's the whole point of it. It ensures that users have a seamless experience and increases the chances that your website is going to convert at a high percentage, and it doesn't matter what the device of origination is. So there's really three main components when it comes to a conversion optimized website and what goes into that. The first is functionality. Second is going to be look and feel. And lastly, it's all about the data collection that you're asking from the consumer on the page. I want to note, some of you might be thinking to yourself, like, I don't have the capabilities to actively build my own website. We have what we have. It is what it is. Don't worry, there are other ways to gather consumers' information. There is Meta's lead gen form objective. I would say it's not a top strategy recommendation of mine. From what our team has seen, it doesn't necessarily generate the highest quality leads, but it is an opportunity, especially dependent on the information you need out of the consumer, to start getting leads and generate more prospects and an audience for yourself. But
Okay.
for the yes.
Oh, sorry. No, I want to make sure, I want to level set. So we've got our meta ad, we're placing the ad, we've got the call to action. Your suggestion is that call to action drives to this unique website where that's where the lead is gathered. Okay.
That's exactly it. Yep.
So to your point, you made is brands have websites, you know, if they've got an enterprise view and then the local levels. Is this something that can be a landing page on that? Or what's the benefit of the completely separate? And it doesn't need to be a fully functional, you know, website. That's not the right way to say that. But talk about what.
That's exactly accurate. Yeah, so you're not, okay. This page is going to be built specific to this initiative. And if it goes well, you know, obviously you could have a tab like apply, and if this form is built specifically for conversion, you can utilize it throughout other parts or facets of your website. But specific to this and really any performance-based campaign that you're going to run, you want it to go to a page that is optimized and is built to convert. Otherwise, you're just wasting media dollars. So.
Awesome. No, I like this idea rather than it just opening a form, because to your point, it's mobile. I still want a little bit more info. I equate it to if I'm looking at inventory of anything, if I'm shopping for, you know, shoes or whatever, I still want to click in and get more information before
and learn more about it. 1000%. Yep.
So, oh, go ahead.
What? No, go.
Jason asked again, so should the website too, mirroring that same conversation, focus on the culture of the operations? What delivers that engagement or the connection after that click?
Yep, great question. So let's and we'll kind of talk through these next couple slides around that. And if I don't answer Jason's question, please stop me.
Perfect.
So really what is going to be the main focus on this with functionality is, again, it should be built separate from your standard company's website. You want to ensure, considering the 98% of consumers coming from their mobile device, that you are mobile compatible, especially when compared to desktop, but also iPhone versus Android. Things will render differently on those different devices. And so you just need to ensure that those web pages are going to look seamless no matter where the device of origination is. A big part of this is going to be fast load time. So from ad click off to when they actually see the web page, is it loading quickly? Are people just kind of sitting in a spinning wheel of death of oblivion and they're not getting to where they need to go? Those are easily monitored if you have tracking on your website, and you can see when that page load or page view event occurs. But yes, you want to make sure fast load times are happening and there is no high bounce rate and drop off from your consumers. We always recommend that the form is on here pre-scroll. So you can see here at the top, we have a little bit of some content, but then you see right in front of you, are you interested? Apply today. Let's get what you need out of the consumer so they know the actionable items are right in front of them without having to take any type of scroll action on the actual form itself. From there, really kind of the main goal is going to be to ensure that you're making the form as simple and as seamless as possible for the consumer to complete. One of the biggest pain points, and I still see it all the time, I just saw it on a web page I was on before I joined, is the popping of the numeric keypad versus the alpha keypad. So the difference between the actual numeric keypad, you know, when you're on your alpha keypad and then you switch over to numbers, then there's like all the numbers at the top, teeny, tiny. That's not the one we want to go to. We want to go to the actual numeric keypad, and you see that example here on the right-hand side, but you'll want that for Zip and phone. largely for phone, for a main reason is that it's going to eliminate or at least largely reduce what we call fat fingering. So it's going to be so easy to enter your incorrect phone number and probably not even realize it if you have that teeny tiny numeric keypad. The alpha keypad, the numeric keypad itself is a lot bigger, a lot grander, and it'll hopefully eliminate or at least largely reduce those fat fingering opportunities, because that's how you're going to be contacting the consumers, I would assume. So you want them to be entering their right number. Lastly is, for this example, is radio buttons versus drop downs. Again, kind of the goal is to eliminate multi-click requirements for simple yes, no answers. Or just for simple, really, answers in general. So you'll see here technician experience as our example. This is showing a drop down. So you're requiring the consumer to click on the technician experience button and then select yes or no. The next question is willing to relocate. Instead of just requiring a click and then another click, just a simple yes, no is right in front of their face. So if you have several different yes, no questions that can be solved with radio buttons versus drop downs, I would highly recommend doing that instead. It just eliminates an additional click that you don't have to worry about and just kind of helps the overall conversion sequence.
Yeah, this is all like a common sense approach to it that gets so overlooked.
So
and this
lost.
Is fantastic recommendations for any lead form for any purpose. So I'm taking that got nerdy with the number buttons, but I love a good.
I know, and again, it seems so obvious, but it's like so many companies miss the mark on that part. Now the look and feel. So another one that is like seems so obvious is just having appropriate branding at the top. So with the look and feel, you want to ensure, and again, I'll go back to the real estate, you only have kind of a select amount of real estate that you can utilize at any time on the mobile device. So don't have like a massive logo at the top, just a nice, clear and concise logo where you can see it matches the brand cohesion from the ad up front where the consumer came from, and it's obvious. You know where you landed, you know what you're about to do. Another opportunity to really have compelling call to actions and titles. So now hiring, apply now. Obviously, apply now is going to be way more compelling than just learn more. It's like, oh, whatever, they're not really pushing me to do anything, but it's like, hey, we're hiring today. Apply now, we'll get back to you ASAP. Like, tell them how quickly you're going to be getting back to the consumer on your thank you page, things like that. But make sure that you are going to be descriptive, you are compelling, and you are reiterating what you want them to do. Images on a mobile device for a mobile landing page are something I don't always recommend. It's going, again, you have real estate that you need to utilize to your benefit, and showing a picture of something that's probably just repetitious from the picture that you showed on the ad is not going to be in your benefit. So limit them. If you feel as though it's something super compelling, or even you put it after the actual application, go for it. But I would not recommend to take any real estate from the top of this form, because it's not doing anything that's going to provide value.
Yeah.
Again, this kind of goes all into the formatting and the optimal conversion-based layout of the page, just making sure that you're able to be seamless. A lot of times websites too, I don't know if you've seen on a mobile device, they're not mobile perfectly and they move side to side. So testing that and making sure that the different devices and the formatting will help with the overall flow of the actual application. And then back to that pop of color. It's not just about the campaign. You want to have a pop of color on the actual application. So you'll see here our apply now button. You can have your submit button, say whatever you want. Apply now is just another opportunity to remind you that's what we need you to do. Orange is always recommended. I think it's great. It shows that that's where you need to click to submit. Oftentimes I'll see like a grade button, and to me as a consumer, it looks like I'm not completed, like it should have popped to something else to know my application's done. So it's eliminating any additional confusion, and you know that's where you need to go to submit.
Yeah, or orange, green is good. I think a lot of times businesses lean so far into their own branding and colors, which isn't necessarily the right solution. You mentioned, blue is already all over Meta. Red is one of Ansira's colors, but we're never going to put a big red button because red is stop. So yeah, think about this where branding matters, of course, but yeah, love the recommendations of orange, and then you said green because you don't see these colors everywhere all the time too.
Like neon, let's get crazy, but whatever the case may be, don't be afraid. Yeah. And then lastly is the overall data collection that you're wanting to get out of the consumer for this. The first thing I'll always recommend in terms of the data is going to be determining what form fields are a necessary, I need to have this information, versus like, it'd be nice to have it, but I don't necessarily need it right off the bat. In jobs specifically, again, knowing the source where your consumers are coming from, is resume really, a formal resume upload really required at form of completion? I don't know how many people are actively going to have their resume readily available on their mobile device. My guess is not many. So is that something that you really need to make sure that you have as a formal requirement for the applicant? Then knowing what user data is going to be most useful, and is there specific requirements that they even need to have to qualify. We talked about pre-qualifying questions on the actual campaign, but I would 100% have pre-qualifying questions on the ad if they're not even going to be a qualified candidate for the campaign. So are there minimum experience levels that the consumer needs to have? Are they needing to be in a specific geolocation, ensuring that the consumer is located in the right place? Don't be afraid to ask those specific questions. Here we ask, are you willing to relocate? Things like that, if you want to know those things, absolutely should go into, but having a list of this I need to know versus I'd like to know it, but I can get that information once I call them or email them. And then prioritizing the order of field on the form for likeliest highest conversion is also important. So an example here is collecting your zip code before you even ask city and state. So once you pop that zip code, so 60614 in Chicago, your form should automatically then enter Chicago, Illinois. You're eliminating the need for entering Chicago and Illinois. And it's putting as long as you put that before city and state, you're able to do that. You also should be testing fields for the order for future iterations. So is it better to ask those pre-qualification questions first? So maybe they don't have 3 years experience and you're like, they must have it, or I can't even take their application. Then maybe you can reroute them to a different page before even completing their information to know that, hey, don't waste anyone's time. Let's just move along from here. And knowing those pre-qualifiers ahead of time will allow you not to also provide poor data back to Facebook with pixel tracking, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it'll allow you to get more about the consumer or route them differently if they're not going to be qualified. And then lastly, if you do have a lengthier application process, and by lengthy, like 15 questions, maybe a multi-step is a better approach than like one long page. So asking a couple, four questions, and then ending with the PII information could be a great approach. You could have a status bar at the top, just showing that they're moving along, there's not much left, but helping break up that feel could help your conversion at the end be more optimal. So that type of stuff is going to come with tests, but just things to keep in mind when creating your web page. Lastly, if you're ever creating or gathering anyone's PII information, you need to have disclaimers claiming that you need to do so. Obviously, those would be provided by your legal team. And then pixel tracking, which we will get into next, but ensuring that pixels are going to be firing throughout the flow of the actual page is going to help provide that data back to the campaign and allow you to optimize better.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. Again, all very common sense of, do you need the resume at this point? Remembering the people are on mobile and attaching that, like, good luck to you.
And good luck. I'm not entirely sure who has it, but I mean, yeah.
No, I don't even know how to get PDFs on my phone. I'm very smart, I promise. All of this is good. So back to that look and feel of this website. Is the entire website just the form? Or what other information in addition to the data collection and everything you've shown needs to be a consideration?
Yeah, so I'll go back here to the top so you can see kind of the flow here. And I failed to mention, so I appreciate you bringing this up. At the top part here, we can have an opportunity to provide additional content to the consumer. At the top or even the bottom, you'll see here in this example, we have the see more button. The consumer can hit see more and get all the different intel they need to about the specific job itself right there if you need to, but you're not automatically taking up that real estate right off the bat, but you do have the option to provide additional intel. On the bottom, after this is completed, feel free to talk more about, there's actually two recommendations here. You could talk more about the business itself, like what is your company, what does the role entail, you know, whatever information that you might find juicy and exciting, throw there. You also have your thank you page. So once the actual application is completed, use that thank you page real estate to say, hey, thank you so much. Here's the next steps. You know, here's a little bit more about our company. Link it to a different URL. Say, learn more about some of the great stuff we've accomplished over the years. You know, you could kind of build that conversation through those different facets. But I would focus this part only on the application, and then know the real estate at the bottom or the real estate on the thank you page could be great spots to talk further about your business.
No, that's helpful. I think I didn't want to overwhelm people thinking, hey, you got to build a whole website and you got to have all this extra. This makes sense. And you're mirroring the click from the ad to what shows up after the click.
Right.
So I love that. See more. I love that. I see it is really apply now. It's not just a bait and switch and now you're going to show me all this other stuff I don't care about.
Exactly. So. Yep. It is seamless. It is obvious. You are repeatedly telling them this is what we need you to do, and that should ensure highest possible conversion rates for you.
Perfect.
All right, so now we're going to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of actually the programmatic piece of Meta and why understanding Meta media strategies is going to be the overall really help you ensure that your campaigns are landing to the right set of people and the right set of eyes. So really, automation is going to be a key point here if you're able to execute on it. So programmatic media buys really allow you as the advertiser to maximize your ROI while ensuring your campaign management is done efficiently with minimal hands-on keyboard requirements. It's like anytime you make a change, you really don't want to like have to go back into the ads manager, make these adjustments. And especially if things need to be done at scale, it's just going to be a time suck for whoever's managing it. So utilizing an automation piece is going to be really helpful for the grand scheme of things from top to bottom with your campaign. So there's some key components to note that you can automate to reduce really any of these manual adjustments. First is going to be creative. Also your daily or monthly budgets to help pace spend. Any bid options to ensure appropriate pacing. So things like highest volume or bid caps. Your pixel setup and overall tracking to feed that intel back to the campaign for optimization purposes. Settings, and actually settings is a big one here because special ad categories is something that you have to select if your campaign is in a vertical that is around or in a part of that special ad category. Employment is one of them. So any of your campaigns that is advertising employment will have to be selected in the special ad category section. And then also ad scheduling and overall placements within Meta. And then lastly, your audiences, any geo-targeting or any devices that you're trying to hone in on.
So on audiences, and I might be asking this too early, so tell me if you want to wait. But so there, depending on the type of job, again, I know we keep using auto technicians as the example, but there's probably Facebook groups out there where like about if you're an auto technician, you know, or retail, there's tons of retail groups. So is there a way to target people who are members of groups or, you know, specific pages, things like that?
Yeah, and I would say, so there are to a degree. It's not ever going to be a strategy I recommend right off the bat. I'm not going to lie. And we will get into the audience section here in a minute, but it is the last thing you want to do is shrink your pool of people too soon. That's all it's going to do is increase your cost. So the biggest benefit for you will be your first party data that you can learn through your broad campaign targeting, but we'll get to that here in a minute.
Fantastic.
So many of you are probably thinking to yourself, like, cool, I'd love to automate, but how do I even do that? And that is going to be through the utilization of the Meta API. So it'll be a way to streamline and automate your overall campaign management and make it less hands-on keyboard and less strenuous. First is going to be any geo-targeting restrictions. So maybe you have, you know, a nationwide company who's going to be hiring in all different locations. So you're Burger King and you're trying to get as many people across open positions within your quick service restaurant. So if your locations are changing rapidly, your API connection will give you the ability to set a frequency of geolocations, again, if they're updating all the time, so you don't have to manually do that. So hey, API, every single day, rerun your feed and say whatever's located in the feed, that's where we need to deploy our campaigns for today. Or once a week, once a month, however frequent you see them changing, you're able to do that via the API. And it's important because you only want to spend your media dollars in the geolocations where you're actually wanting to generate leads. Again, sounds obvious, but it's crazy how many times I have seen ads that like, I am not located in California, I'm not entirely sure why I'm seeing this, and it doesn't make sense. And it's just because these manual uploads probably get a little bit monotonous for whoever's managing it, and they're not effectively utilizing the API to just deploy where it makes sense for their campaign.
So with geo-targeting, you know, because we have a lot of national brands who have local franchisees all over the country. Can all this be accomplished at the national level? Is regional more successful, or does it matter?
Great question. It sort of depends. It's going to be a case-by-case scenario. If you are just looking to hire in the Southeast region, then yes, I would say a regional specific campaign that you can deploy. And also is going to be based on the questions that you're asking. Are you in a role where you're okay that people could relocate based on what the role actually entails? Then yes, deploying it nationwide is going to, or region-wide is going to be great. Doing nationwide campaigns are always best case scenario, because what we have seen is, again, your pool of people is much larger, and then it'll allow your campaign to learn a lot quicker. So then you can start figuring out pockets of profitability or pockets where your campaign is really converting the best. But if that's not going to be the case for everyone, I would recommend to try to be as broad as possible within your parameters. Again, if it's regional, then maybe specific DMAs in those regions if people aren't going to relocate for the position. But that would be kind of a case-by-case basis. I just wouldn't recommend a super, super small audience off the bat if you can do anything about it.
Got it.
So next with the API will be your bid adjustments. So through the API, you can automate any of these things based on a set of parameters you provide. So maybe you want to spend a certain percentage of your budget by a certain time. So say you have a bid at $1, and then you want to say that'll spend through 60% of my budget. Once that does happen, reduce it by 40%. And then you can ensure that your campaigns are pacing the way you want it, all done through bid adjustments that would then happen through all the campaigns that you're running at one time. And this is especially great if you're noting your ROI is too low. It's like, I'm getting through my budget. Maybe I should bring my bid down and on all my campaigns, especially based on location, that you can then make sure that you're having a more positive experience. You're getting through that budget on a lower bid. So basically meaning you're spending less to get that same click. Budget updates and pacing are another one. Just like in the bid adjustments, you can adjust budgets based off of a set of parameters to ensure your campaigns are spending and they're pacing as you'd expect. So you'll want to make sure you're spending a certain amount a day or a certain amount a month. And then, are you generating enough KPIs? So that means that, are you seeing the expected results that you want? If you're not, maybe you should be pulling down your budget a little bit, rethink your campaign. If you are, max up that budget, increase it, capitalize on the fact your campaign is really learning and finding the right consumers, all done through the API. And then any creative updates. So we talked earlier about static images and catalogs and product feeds. This is a really great way to utilize the API to make creative adjustments at scale. So you can set up automated updates with the catalogs and feeds based on a time frame you decide. So maybe new roles are becoming available in new locations all the time, and you want to add new images to your catalog or product set. Have your catalog rerun every day, every week, whatever the case may be, and it's pulling in the freshest information. And the biggest benefit of this, in my opinion, is these adjustments are not going to put your campaigns back into review. So oftentimes, if you're doing this manually within the ads platform yourself, any upload is going to put especially a creative upload, is going to put your campaign back in review. When it's done in the background with a product set on a catalog, that's not going to happen. And we'll talk about this here in a minute as well, is you want to get your campaigns kind of out of that learning phase as quickly as possible, because then your campaign is going to start optimizing. When you're stuck back in the learning phase, it's like it's relearning everything it already did, when you probably got into a groove and we're finding the consumers and we're happy with the results. So this is getting to your point, Erin, audiences. So what would I recommend, and where to utilize different audience sets throughout your campaigns? So a lot of people probably wouldn't agree, but broad campaign strategies and growing your data sets are going to be a really great place to start. Off the bat, it seems like an obvious solution to be like, hey, let me make sure I'm getting the interest of the people that might want to do this, or hey, they really like cars and they're going to want to be a technician. It's not necessarily the case, and you're just limiting your set of people and increasing your cost. So you'll see here, too narrow too soon is just going to increase your overall campaign cost and not be best practice. A larger audience size will allow you to generate your first-party data much quicker, and then you'll be able to create your audiences at a quicker fashion than a piddly small amount, because you have really layered interest targeting on top. And because you're so broad, you'll start to see trends, successes, fails, and you'll exit out of the learning phase much sooner, which is, again, is very important. Your campaign will start getting into a groove, and taking that out or taking too long to get out of that, it's just going to waste your media dollars. Next is the generation of user data. So it helps to understand your audience and who is finding value in your offering. Your first party data generation allows the growth of your audiences that are specific to your business. You're not tapping into other people's pages and things to find those consumers. Find people that are finding relevance and excitement and interest in what you're advertising. So you will get that first party data to then do the following two things. You can create remarketing audiences, which we all know remarketing audiences and remarketing as a strategy is very compelling. Remarketing to consumers who have already shown interest and value is a must. But this can only be done if you're tracking the activity of the consumer on your site with enough traffic. And we'll keep that in mind for the next slide. Then you want to utilize lookalike audiences. So again, once enough data is being generated, lookalike audiences can be created to find consumers who are similar to existing ones you've already generated. So this goes all the way back when we were talking about pre-qualifying those consumers on your application, or even just mentioning it on the campaign, that you want to make sure that you are having that pixel fire and gaining audiences that are actually qualified and high quality consumers for that job, that specific job they're applying for. Lookalike audiences can be generated on various parts of the lead funnel. So don't think like, hey, I can only do lookalike audiences based off of someone who's converted. Not true. You can have people come who've landed on your page and scrolled, or maybe you have a multi-step application. They got to a certain step in the funnel. You can make lookalike audiences after any of those people, because they've clearly taken action on your page, and those are going to be great ones to mimic or mirror off of. Obviously, doing converters is a great strategy, but you just might not have enough data to do that.
So is all of this possible because of the website that you built? Or is that why we're doing that versus just having the ad and a form?
Yes, this is all allowing you to create first-party data sets. The form, if we just went back to the lead gen form, you're not going to be able to utilize any of these strategies. And also, just from a brand perspective, you're getting people to know more about your business when you land them on the web page. But the utilization of this data is going to be specific to the web page that you land the consumers on, for sure.
Perfect. That's why it's so important. And I'm going to put you on the spot, and you can tell me TBD. But, you know, we all know first party data is most powerful. It's yours, you know, that's why we're doing this.
Yep.
With the remarketing piece and changes to the cookie and the third party cookie maybe going away, do you anticipate any of this being affected by that?
I don't think so. And this will all come in time with testing, but I think that there'll be ways and workarounds, because it is such a compelling way to advertise that it can't just go away and never happen. I mean, as people who don't understand marketing get weirded out by like, oh, I just saw this ad on something else and now they're already showing it to me. But it's like, well, it's because you're more highly likely to convert on it because you are interested in it, and I'm going to show you it elsewhere. But there will be ways to combat the different audiences, and Facebook's, or Meta specifically, is really great about that, especially with the lookalike audiences. Yeah. I think we'll be in good hands.
I think so too. And I mean, I never met a cookie I didn't like, so keep them all here. It'll be fine. But yes, more to come. Ansira's got more content coming on changes to the cookie in the future, so stick with us, I promise.
Beautiful. So back to even being able to do any of these things is the importance of that metapixel tracking. So what is the metapixel? We all probably know, but just as a refresher, it is a piece of code for your website that will let you measure, optimize, build audiences all from your campaigns or for your campaigns. You will need some engineer or just maybe a website creator or someone who's smart about it to add that pixel code to your website, and then you can track whatever action you are needed to collect. So page views is always a good one. Conversions are always a good one. That would be your lead pixel event. Why do you want to do this? It's because the campaign is then fed information regarding that user activity that will in turn then help optimize your campaign. The end goal is to always allow the campaign to learn and understand if it's spending and showing to the right set of eyes. It'll allow you to eventually target and hone in your media spend where you will find that users are more likely to convert. So all of this is going to be really important, and something that just don't even launch a campaign if you don't have the pixel set up. And you should test if you see the pixelers, like pixel tag managers you can see on your browser to make sure you see it on the web page. You could do a couple test lead. Are you seeing the pixel firing in the ads platform itself to ensure that it is set up properly? So how this would work, from top bottom, place your pixel code, then you're going to try to drive traffic through your media buys to the web page. Once people actually get on the web page, you'll start capturing that user action. That data is then learned and sent back to the Facebook Meta Ads Manager. Then lastly, you'll be optimizing your campaign for overall performance and ensuring that you're, again, spending your media dollars wisely, you're finding the right set of eyes.
It's simple, obviously.
So simple.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a little bit simple or complicated now.
That's what I was going to say. We're doing great on time. We've got about 10 minutes. So if you've got questions about anything, now's the time, put them in that chat. But bring us home. You're doing fantastic on time.
Bring it home. Okay, beautiful. So Meta ecosystem, super quick. We'll talk about the algorithm. What is it? It's a complex system to determine the placement and targeting of your ads on the platform. The goal at the end of the day is always going to be to match the ad with relevant users who are likely to engage into that content with the action you decide. So upfront with your campaign target and your goal, what do you want them to do? You want them to take action? We're going to try to find people who are actively going to complete your form. There's 4 main things right now. It's ever evolving. The algorithm is not something that stayed the same since 2012 till it is today. It's always changing. As of right now, this is kind of very broad in how it works. First, the algorithm is going to look at any possible ad that can show up on the user's feed based on their previous set of activities or even engagement with other brands. Then they're going to analyze the relevance of your ad and the different variables. So what's your business, your ads and your budgets, the age in which you're looking or location in which you're looking for the consumers to be or interests. Then they'll pick up your ad if your signals match what that user would find relevant. From there, it'll be prediction. So, I mean, that sounds ambiguous, but the algorithm will predict what action the user may take on your ad based on things they've already done. So are they consumers who actively do convert on things? Great, that's what you're looking for. Let's get that ad in front of their eyes. After all of that, you're given a relevancy score. So the algorithm is going to give you a score based on your content and how likely the consumer is going to convert on it. The higher the score, the higher it will appear on the user's feed. And then luckily or likely your cost will be lower. So we want to kind of keep all those things into consideration. Again, the whole algorithm is a little bit ambiguous and ever changing, but as it stands today, this is kind of what they're looking for. Last couple slides here. So your campaign setup, you want to ensure your campaigns are launched that generate your desired outcome. So you prepare, you execute, and then you're going to update. So when you prepare, really outline what your business specific KPIs are. What are you wanting them to do? Obviously for this, we want them to complete an application. And if there's ever different KPIs that need to be met, you will need different marketing strategies. If you want them to call, like a click to call campaign versus a lead form, keep in mind you'll need 2 different campaigns at least for that. Then you'll execute on the different outlines that you've made. Look for the objective, the demographic of people you're looking for, and then if there's audiences that are replicable, you've been running, you have a remarketing audience or a lookalike audience you want to layer, that now's the time. And then update, and we'll talk more about how that would be helpful on the next slide, but just really manage to your KPIs. Do you need to make any adjustments to your bid and budgets, any marketing language that you need to adjust, and overall, are you generating high quality leads that you'd be expecting to be generating? And then here, when you're assessing your campaign performance, you want to maximize your ROI. So assessing it will look through your key metrics, your click-through rates, your cost per clicks, your cost per 1,000 impressions, overall frequency. We talked about that at the beginning. Are you showing it the same ad to the same person a bunch and you maybe need a refresh? And then what's your overall spend per outcome? Here we talk about testing. You're going to want to test various iterations of your campaign, whether it's creative, language, etc., different strategies and different placements to see maybe iPhones are converting way better than Androids and you can spend your media dollars there. Maybe different placements within Meta are doing better than others that you can remove ones that aren't doing as well. Make sure to test those things once you find those findings and data. And then lastly is monitoring. So your comments and messages, you'd be shocked how much you learn from individuals that are writing on the ad or individuals who take the time to message you. Take the time to read those, learn if maybe people are getting hung up on the application. They'll tell you in a message or in an ad comment. So read those. You writing back will also help with engagement and Facebook's eyes on how people are interpreting your ads. So it's a good thing if they're commenting, but just make sure you're monitoring those things that you're able to learn from the different assessments done at that time. Obviously, we've been talking about jobs and how this is these are great strategies in that vertical, but this is really great recommendations beyond jobs. Anytime you've got a solution that could help solve because a hurt is you don't have enough leads or you don't have enough hand raisers, people who are finding interest in your offering, these are all great strategies that you can utilize cross-vertical. So just keep that in mind. This isn't specific to jobs per se.
No, that's a great note. Thank you so much. Yes, listen, Bailey gave you the playbook to do this yourself, but many of you might be thinking, that's a lot to do myself. Well, don't worry, Ansira is here to help. We can do this for you. We do this for many brands right now. Everything Bailey showcased today, from the website creation, that API integration with Meta, which is one of those biggest pieces and the most technical and difficult to accomplish, with that monitoring, making sure we are checking the ROI, making the right bids, making the right choices, and that real-time delivery, that's what we do. So if this is something you feel would be a great fit for your brand, type me a note in the questions. You can reach out to us after at webinars@ansira.com, and we will talk through and get you some more information. More information is what I'm all about. So as always, we have more thought leadership. We've got our blog, We Talked Cookies. There's a recent blog there if you want to see what's going on. Our white papers, some fantastic case studies, and past webinars that you can check all of that out. There's links in the deck for you, or go to ansira.com and you can get everywhere. Speaking of everywhere, Bailey and I are going to be together next week in Las Vegas for the NADA show, NADA, for anybody in the auto industry. If you're going to be in Vegas, we want to meet with you. We have some beautiful space at the Venetian Hotel where we are hosting all of our partners, our customers, anybody in the auto industry who just wants to talk. We are excited. I'm excited. We've still got to talk wardrobe, Bailey, but I think we're going to be great.
Yes, we do.
Yes. So if you're going to be there, book time. Scan this QR code. But until then, I've got one more question locked and loaded. If you haven't connected with us on LinkedIn, those are our codes. Please, oh please, I love all the friends. You become VIP with us automatically. So here's the last question, I think, unless someone else types real fast, is what have you seen to be the one or two biggest opportunities, is how we'll phrase it, to improve how someone executes a campaign like this? Do you see a lot of the challenges on the front end, media creation and launch, and you might not get too involved with this piece, but the actual candidate selection and going through the applications that come in?
Yeah, so I'm not as in the weeds on that piece of it.
Yeah.
I try to get and understand what is required out of the consumer to be a strong applicant from the company ahead of time, so we can cater how we do the language and stuff. But I think the biggest piece is the website piece. Like, where are you driving the traffic for the consumers to be able to convert and actively know what they're supposed to be doing? It's a big hang up. So if you could spend any time on there, just ensuring that you're building a web page that's allowing you to be concise, consumer can complete the application quickly and seamlessly, but then you're pixeling all of that activity and you're understanding your knowledge set. You're getting a better knowledge set of your consumers and the different individuals who are finding value in your offering, and then let Meta do the rest. Let it start optimizing and understanding on your behalf. Utilize the KPI and the API, and you will be off to the races and in a good place. But yeah, I think the website is a great place to start.
Awesome. Well, Bailey, thank you. I told you we'd be great on time. You did a fantastic. Yes, we will send the recording and presentation out later, but please reach out with more questions. And thank you, Bailey. I'll see you soon.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the time.